Welcome to the WNBF UK podcast.
Okay, guys, welcome to another WNBF UK podcast show. You're with myself, Leon Mitchell, WNBF Pro, and I'm joined today with Pavel Pleva, our Masters 40 plus champion. Pavel, welcome to the show, my man.
Hi, Leon. Hi, everybody. Yes, good to see you.
Good to have you on the show, my man. I think this one's going to be an interesting chat because Pavel's been competing for many years and, he's got some experience behind him. And I'm sure we're going to get some great insight and some takeaways moving forward. But before we get into all of that, Pavel, introduce yourself and give us a little bit of competitive history that you've kind of grown so far.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm Pav. As you probably know me by Pav. I'm not going to go into too many years of what was happening, but I'm just going to stick to the competitive years. Mm-hmm. But so if I start, it was probably the first one. The first one was in 1999. So yeah, some time ago. Mm-hmm. And it was in America. It was like Mr. Georgia or something like this, which I didn't win, but I ended up second. But yeah, that was the first show. And so since then, it was sort of on and off. I never stayed really, like competing like every year or every other year. After there was a long like period of time when I didn't really compete. I started I maintained my condition sort of, but it was not until like UK when I started to compete was 2013. So it was a long time, like from the first one. And then, and it was much more regular after that. I would say it was 2013, 14, and then back to 2018, 19, and last year. Yes.
Nice. And so what got you into competitive bodybuilding? Who were some of your early inspirations that made you think, wow, I want to do some of that?
Well, that time, I was only 19 years old. And as I was, into bodybuilding, that time, I felt like, well, do I want to try and push it a little bit and see mm-hmm. what my potential is? And then how else can you, sort of justify the potential than by being on stage and measure up with other people? That was the idea. I know that it's not for everybody really, mm-hmm. but that was my idea, just to see, like how I can, do this really on stage. So that was my sort of goal to, okay, let's do this based on the past few years. What can I do, just on stage? So that was there was nothing really too specific because I think I was still very young, so I didn't really understand or what I would want to do or like the real reason. It was just like literally saying myself, okay, well then let's try to do something else than just being at the gym. And that was it. That was the challenge, just to, try and be on stage. So that was it.
Nice.
That was the feeling.
So who was some of the early bodybuilders that you kind of thought, okay, cool, they look quite cool. And it was obviously, because everyone's got an inspiration, a motivation, or someone who they kind of thought, oh, wow, they look mega impressive. Who was some of your inspirations?
Yeah, I think, I started to do like a weightlifting 1995, 1996, that time. And because I'm from Czech Republic, and that mm-hmm. time, that was the post-communistic era, sort of, and we didn't have any relation with the Western world. So there were, like the bodybuilding itself was really, or any other sport really on a, like on a high level, other mm-hmm. than football and so it was really not there. Okay. And so, I remember buying like a Muscle and Fitness for the first time. It was like really like 15 pages. And then, but those people like the Arnold era, maybe it will sound a little bit too cliche, but that was it. That was what I started to see for the first time. That was it. That was the, like late 80s, early 90s. And that was it. It was like mm-hmm. the Arnold era. And then like Dorian Yates came in, I don't know exactly the years, but I do remember that was it. So not necessarily that it was an inspiration, because later on I started to feel like, ooh, it's going like, you know, it's a little too much.
Yeah.
So Arnold was probably the top of what I thought. Okay, yeah, that's that. Everything beyond that was like, oh, that's pushing it for me, for my taste. But you know, these like the Arnold was the end of the what I thought was, you know, for me like inspiration. If you ask, you know, like inspirational. And then everything before was pretty much, you know, all the guys that were involved, you know, in that era, like late 70s, early 80s, you know, I don't have to say the names, but so those were the inspirations, because I felt like those were the most natural, you know, it was still like a held within some sort of, you know, like a human potential without thinking, oh, that's something went, you know, wrong. So that's where I felt comfortable. And, you know, like seeing it on stage, like a Arnold or the guys, you know, around, that felt like, wow, that was just, you know, something really, you know, inspirational. So, yeah, so that's it.
Nice. So once you started saying, okay, cool, I wanted to go and take my potential and see how far I can push it, you know, did you get a coach, or did you just kind of go it alone? You know, what was your approach going into your first kind of your show, or first getting you towards that stage?
Wow. First show, again, it was completely my, you know, I had no idea what I'm doing. I remember the time when, you know, like the dieting, it was like looking back, and I have some memories because I didn't, you know, make any notes or anything that time. But, you know, like feeling what I was doing, not knowing what I was doing, it was just ridiculous. I remember for the first show, for some reason, 2 days before, I just ate apples, and I don't know. I asked myself, I don't know why, but I just felt like somehow I ate apples the whole day, 2 days before the show. Okay, so saying about the coach, if I had a coach, probably that wouldn't be the case. So you know, I learned my lessons through like these ridiculous things. But anyway, but saying that, since the very beginning until the last show I've done, I never had a coach. I never had a coach in, you know, like any aspect, either the like a nutrition or any coach. You know, some people say, if you do, maybe you will get to, you know, completely different level. Or I just, you know, like I never had that feeling that I would let somebody else, you know, temper with what I'm trying to do, even though it might not be ideal. But I learn every time something, you know, within me that is just really important, rather than, you know, somebody putting me to that position. And maybe, you know, like I know that, you know, a lot of people say, well, that's just stupid, but that's just like the instinctive, you know, feeling that I don't have to win. I don't have to make it perfect. I would be much rather to, you know, like learn something on my own and try to adjust it. And then, okay, I screw up. By the way, yes, up until now, every show I've done, I knew that I didn't do it, you know, 100%. It was always, there was some reason why, but I'm not doing it to make it perfect, but, you know, for just to win no matter what. I do it for the experience and for what can I do myself. And that's my, you know, like individual opinion. And I know it's important if I say, hey, I seriously, I want to go serious and I want to push it. And then maybe, I would like to get, you know, like because yes, of course, somebody, you know, like two brains would, you know, come up with something that would be probably, you know, more efficient in a lot of aspects. But I just never went there, you know, for this reason. So it's very personal. It's very personal. And I don't think a lot of people would say, it's a good idea if you compete and you want to win. You want to just make sure that you just do whatever you can do to do it the best you can.
So did you get a lot of your knowledge from just kind of, you know, resources around you, the internet? How did you go about, you know, empowering yourself with what you needed to get you to the stage to represent yourself in the best light? How did you obtain all that information?
I think, since like 2002, 3, when I started to do like a personal training courses, since then, I did take time to, you know, like study, you know, trying to figure out the theories and all the, you know, like all aspects of, you know, what the, you know, like bodybuilding. But then I think the most valuable thing was the consistency in trying to do it on your own, or, for me, because it wasn't, I'm not in it for, 2 years or 3 years. I started when I, like 25 years ago. So it's a long time. I know it sounds ridiculous for most people, but the consistency and trying different things, and you having the time to do that. It's not like, oh, I need to win and I need to do the best in 2 years. Obviously, you're not going to try and, for 5 years and then, no, you need to get in and like be as efficient as possible, the best you can do. And then, of course, there must be a way to, get the intel from somebody who's much more experienced and, can get you there. But it wasn't that was never my case. I was always, like trying to, approach the competitions by saying, I want to sort of see my potential, my physical potential at this moment. And I want to be able to, based on my knowledge and, like experience and all the training and what I can do within that. So, and don't get me wrong. I have people sort of giving me hints and advice. And every time somebody, and it's maybe my ego. Maybe it is like, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm like, but every time somebody comes in and say, oh, you should do this, before the show, there's in the background, there's something telling me, there's some, but maybe it's because I'm just trying to guard myself so much and just like, like make my sort of presence so pristine without any sort of, and then when the result comes or not, I can say, that was definitely 100% me. Not like, oh yeah, I should have not done that. And especially like the pre-show and stuff, I wish I didn't do that. So mainly,
I think there's a great reward that comes with exploration and like self-exploration as well. So when you take yourself through a journey and then you kind of monitor the success, whether it's successful or unsuccessful, there's a big learning there. And I think the more we know about our own bodies, the better that we put ourselves into a better position to kind of go on and make changes where we need to. So I think the path that you take is a great example of someone just following their own guidance rather than, having the interference of an external coach, etc. And it's quite an interesting path.
Yeah, I think that is it. I would say it's much more important for me to not to win or to, even like place or anything, but just to be comfortable with, okay, I did what I did based on what I knew at that time. And this is what I got. And if it's good or not, it doesn't like decrease the value. I see still, okay, yes, I know what I was doing wrong. And it doesn't matter to me really if there is a placement or not. But I appreciate that it was, like coming through the past sort of experience, and it was sort of like a natural development rather than, hey, you eat this, you do this, which is the case. And I do understand, I completely respect that. I'm not that person that would say, oh yeah, you're with coaches. No. It has a place. It's just, like I see, like from different perspective, basically.
Yeah, no, definitely. So along your way, and obviously, going for your first show, etc., what made you want to compete all the way as a natural?
Yes, I think, okay, this is the thing. At the very beginning, I didn't have the, I have to do natural or not. I think from the beginning until now, it's been much more instinctive thing. I didn't really think about it. It was more like a subconscious, decision that I was just going for. And I think, again, subconsciously, I always felt that what I can do within my, like a genetical disposition will always be more interesting and healthier, and I don't even want to go into that, but it was like I felt like if I can do something within my natural ability, I will always value it more than anything else. And then later on, if you're on the subject, later on it was just building up the momentum of feeling, yes, this is exactly, I would never go other than natural, and it was building up, and the more the older I was, the more I was benefiting from it, because, like I had a clear mind that whatever I was doing, it was achievement based on really what I can do, rather than, hey, let's do something with the help. And then I would say the latest sort of thought I had on, being natural was, why would I, like even competing or not, health, fitness, or, top competitions, why would I want to be something else that I'm not? That was the critical for me. And that was like quite recently, I came to the point where I felt like, what do you need to, how far do you need to go that you want to be something that you're not? Yeah. And then, so that was really like, wow, that just like, it's so simple. And then I didn't want to, look like I don't. And then that's what I feel like that was probably the biggest drive, that, I don't need to prove myself that I'm bigger, because I tell you, it's really today, it's going the wrong direction, and it's on all levels. And if you start asking people why, then, you get to the point where there is no answer. So it's really like a sensitive subject, I know, for a lot of people. But for me, it is just, I didn't have the need to prove that, I can be bigger and stronger and this and this. I don't really care. As long as I can maintain my, like health and condition and fitness within, like who I am, then, happy.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing, and I'm very similar myself. It's like, I rather push my natural abilities to see how far I can take that, and feel much more rewarded in, knowing that, it's just all me. I've just given it my all and everything that I could possibly give, and for me, that's enough. I don't really need to go any further or any extreme to prove any points or anything like that. It's all about what I can do for myself to take myself to that next level.
And then again, we are going back, and that's really like from early, like the early 20s, when I read the articles, and there were a few articles that really opened my mind, and it was very true based on what I've seen, in the magazines and the way it was going. And now, like if I compare it to now, that is just really extreme. But if you guys go back to, let's say late 80s, like again, the Arnold era.
Yeah.
And you see the people, that what is the inspiration. You see the people, you will recognize Arnold and Columbo or Oliver, or I don't know, whatever. You will recognize them for 100 meters. Because, and I'm not saying that, Arnold was completely clean, right? Like, a lot of people will say, well, but of course, but it was, not as we know it now. And they maintained the sort of natural, conditioning. So you could recognize the people, and everyone was different. Everyone. You tell one name, and you can picture it, and then it's just like, it is that person. And now, if you look on the stage, like on the whatever Olympia, Arnold, it's just sad.
It's totally different, right?
It's just like you get the sizes, like you get the heights and the sizes, but it's just like all the same. Almost you feel like, like I see 5 competitors. I don't know. I just, like this one is probably bigger, and everything is all over the place. Everything is, and it's like there's everything and nothing at the same time. So there's no character. I think that's what it is. It's missing the character, the character of the individual. And everyone is different. Every single person. There's no one person between 7 billion people that it would be the same in terms of, like the physical condition. If I talk, like material. So why would you go and be, like be like somebody else by, the size and just, like the general, like presentation. It's going the exact opposite direction. So that's what makes me feel like, no, I want to be myself. And if somebody, someday tell me, yes, I saw this guy and I didn't see his head, that was Pav. I want to say that. I want somebody to say that. You know what I mean? And that's it. That's beautiful.
No, definitely. Because when we look at what we're currently seeing in current bodybuilding versus back in the days, you've got aesthetics versus like these mass monsters, right? It's two different parks. And I think, if anything is, it's unattainable to the general public. So they look at that and be like, okay, cool, I'll never get there. Whereas they look at naturals, or they look at people from the more aesthetic era, and that's much more attainable, right? And it's more recognizable. So I think, you know, you've hit some nails on the head right there. So I'm guessing in your time of competing, I'm guessing you've competed with naturals and you've competed against non-naturals, right?
I don't think I ever entered a competition that was non-natural.
Okay, so you've always just competed on natural, yeah?
Yeah, I was thinking about it recently. I was like, I wonder how would I, you know, measure up with, you know, like people who are, but it didn't come to that yet.
Okay.
So it was actually, to be honest, the first one, the first one ever that was that I did, the 1999. I don't think that was defined as natural. So perhaps that was the one that but I had no idea. I saw the name and my class was novice, and that's all I knew. So everything else was beyond me. So there you go.
Nice. And obviously during your time of competing, you most probably just kind of done different federations and different kind of show runnings and stuff like that. So you must have just learned how to kind of, you know, get yourself into the relevant conditions that is required for the various different shows, because every show is going to be different, right? They're going to be looking for different requirements for whatever classes. So how did you go about, you know, trying to get your head around the different federations and making sure that, okay, cool, you know, I can make that class and, you know, kind of do your best in that?
Yeah, I think, well, I only competed in either heavyweight in early years or a masters after. So I knew more or less what I'm sort of, you know, aiming. And then, yes, of course, every federation has a little bit different sort of approach to, you know, like the judging. But saying that, in natural world, it's not that far. You know, I would say the judges usually look for the similar aspects of the physique, and you cannot go really, you know, this federation would be that they would be looking for size, you know, mainly, and then, you know, and then this on conditioning. Yeah, there are subtle, of course, differences, and every judge has a little bit different taste, or, you know, so somebody will, you know, favor a little bit more the conditioning, somebody would, you know, like favor a little bit more the bellies and you know, like a little bit of the size. But in general, I would say, if I'm talking only natural, I would say there is not, or to me, there is not that much difference. If I'm getting ready for a competition, I would say it would be very much the same for, you know, across all federations. So
across the approach. Oh, nice. So in terms of reflecting on last season, okay, because I know I saw you at a few shows, you know, and you was on your run, you know, so obviously you had a great season last season, and then obviously you went into the WNBF UK Supernatural show. I remember seeing you at the first one, and just seeing you up on stage and thinking, I remember just coming in and just seeing you and thinking, man, that guy is madly ripped. And I was thinking, oh man, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. And I remember backstage, you was there with your feet up and you had the pack of sweets and you was down in the sweets. And I was thinking, but he looks ripped as hell. So how's he getting away with half of that stuff? And obviously you went on to win that show and won the overall, right? And then I met you again at the WNBF Supernaturals. And again, at the back, when I saw you, I was like, man, Pav again?
Well, you know,
literally.
You're saying this from your perspective. You know, my perspective is very similar. On the first show that I actually was standing in the audience, and you were, I don't know what class you were on, you know, before we actually came on, on the, so that was my impression. I was standing there like this, and I was like, ladies and gentlemen, this is the overall winner. So that was it. That was it. I didn't say anything. I even talked to somebody. It's like, hey, you know what? Look at this guy. That's it. There you go. Game over. Come on.
Weird how, you know, sometimes as athletes, you know, we just acknowledge another athlete and be like, oh man, that's going to be a problem. And you instantly think, okay, that guy, you're like, ah, he's already got it in the bag. He's already got it in the bag. But you don't think that he's thinking the same thing, the other side. So, you know, for me, when I was up against you at that first show, and I was like, damn, this guy can push it. And as an older gentleman, for me, I'm like, man, he's really bringing it to town. You know, he's making me work right here. So, you know, it's great to see you, you know, up the top, getting that overall, and then meeting you again at WNBF. So tell me a little bit about your time at the WNBF, you know, because obviously that was the first show for the WNBF UK. You know, like, was that a planned show for you, or was it just something that you saw crop up and you was already in that flow and you thought, okay, let me add it to the list?
Yeah, it wasn't planned at all. Because, well, actually the last 3 or even 4 shows were not on the plan, because the year really started not as ideal. It was after the lockdown, I cannot really remember, but I think the gyms were open like April, beginning of April. So that was the time of the prep. So there was not enough time to really think, oh yeah, I'm going to take it really seriously. But yet I wanted to, okay, well, let's, like, we are back in the gym. It looks like, like it's happening. So let's get back on horse and try to do something at least. So I went and I had in my head just one show at that year. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to do this no matter how to get back, basically, to just sort of get some motivation, like see if I can, get something out of whatever was happening the past, like few months or years. And it went well, the show. So, and then since then, it was sort of like, again, it was building. I was like, oh, this one, well, so what about this one? Okay. And then what about this one? And then I get encouragement for, oh, you should do this one. Oh, right. Yeah, okay, I should do this one. And then you do. And then, so that's it. That's how, and there was the Supernaturals was it my 4th or 5th show? I don't know. So
you had
it was really like something I didn't plan for. And I think that was a really, like difficult, because after really few months of being in the, like on and off between like 2 weeks between the shows, I started to feel it really. It was just like, no matter what I did, I just couldn't. The body just completely, nope, nah, I'm not doing it, sorry. So, but I wanted to go for it, and so yeah, I did. But again, it was pushing it. I knew I was just like at the end of my capacity, I would say. But saying that, I was really happy that I was part of it, because first of all, it was the first one for if I speak to WNBF. So in the UK, so I was really happy, and like, wow, I'm one of the first people that like within the competitors who was on stage here. So that was fantastic. And I think nobody knew really what to expect, so because it's a first show, so you just like, yeah, it can go either way. But I think I was really, really, surprised very positively how it went. So, like, I only had like a good feeling, like from the first time you step on and you see like, okay, yeah, you're good. You see the venue first, and then everything else, that's what, like makes you think, yes, okay, that's the real deal. So, and then you relax a little bit, and then you can enjoy it a little bit, and then that was my sort of first impression. But saying that, going back a little bit, what I wanted to mention is this. I know Andy and Steph from the past a little bit, and I know that they've been into different environments, and like different federations competing, like with different people. And I think this was the greatest idea. So what I think that they do now is they're trying to, because each federation, and we talked about it a little bit, each federation has something. They're good at. If you go across the spectrum, you see, okay, and you get it, you fine tune it, and you see, like, you go, as oh yeah, they are really good with organization, and that it's like a German train. But there are some things that, like, yeah, not so much. Then you go somewhere else, and it's extremely friendly. Everybody is like, wow, but the organization, not so much. This is what you get. Or some federation would like really nail the venue, for example. I don't know, some aspect of it. So what I thought was the first impression, just like going through the event, was that Andy and Steph, they really took the time to take the best out of all the federations, putting it together. Okay, so, and that's very logical, and it's exactly what you would expect. Hey, I like this from here, and I like this from here, and I like this from here. and then you put together one show. You know, that's fantastic. And that's what I felt. You know, so you go from the beginning, you know, from the organization, from the people they were involved, you know, like you feel, yeah, you know, nice. You go to the venue, you know, like everything around it is just like, wow, yeah, it just falls together.
Yeah.
So this was my impression after, you know, after some digestion. It's like, I cannot really pick anything that would be like wrong, or something that I would be like, yeah, not so much. It was just like, yeah, that okay. This aspect of it was good. This was so everything sort of felt like, yeah, you know. And then this is very important. Some people say, yeah, but you know, like it's a show. It's like, no, it's not. It's not about that. It's because people are preparing for a show for a really long time, and there are so many things that they're changing and happening, especially 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 days before the show.
Yes.
So what you want, the only thing you want is that the running of the show and every aspect of the show is as easy as possible on you, right?
Yes.
You don't want any other factor of stress. You don't want, oh, this is not going right. And you get the chills and you get the, oh shit. That's what throws you off completely. So you want to come in, and from the registration, you want to be, okay, registration, you want to have the area where you can chill, you know, tanning, I don't know, pump up. So everything sort of, you know, like you expect, it's like, yes, please, like, let it be easy on me, because I have so many things, you know, in my head, and already in the background, the stress is just, you know, beyond ridiculous. So I don't need any surprises, basically. I don't need any like, oh no, oh no.
Yeah.
So that was probably, and now I only speak like technical things, you know, like what I see, like a technical things, rather than like emotional. You know, I can express some, you know, like emotional stuff, but this is important for people who are, you know, like competing or into competing, choosing federation, you know. So this is something that I would say, yeah, this, you know, you cannot lose in terms of, oh, you're afraid that you get lost, or, you know, like somehow there's something that is not, you know, right. So yeah, that was quite important at the end of, you know, when I was just really hitting it. It's like, yes, it's just smooth running, nice people, everything just like falling into place. Yay, happy days.
Yeah, and that's what you need sometimes. You just want to, you know, you just want to kind of go into an environment where you don't have to overthink things. You know what I mean? You don't have to be stressing, as you said. You could just literally just go and do your thing. And as an athlete, you want to kind of feel valued as an athlete, right? You want to have your fair amount of time on stage. You want to feel like, okay, cool, that all that hard work is being appreciated, and you have the platform to showcase that. And I think that's what the guys done really well with WNBF UK, the first show. I think, as you said, taking all those killer elements and, you know, kind of just made them just consistent in one experience rather than multiple pockets of experiences, which we've kind of experienced around the time of going around various different federations. And I think that's going to be the win. It's putting the athlete first. And remembering is that the athlete needs to come first, because it's their time on the stage, and, you know, they just need to be as comfortable as possible. So we just look forward to seeing, you know, what the next couple of shows, you know, line up for. I'm sure it's going to be of that similar high standard again. So, Brad, tell me about your prep going into that, because obviously you said that, you know, before that you must have done 4 shows, and, you know, that wasn't a planned stop. So did your prep change? Because obviously, as you said, you was feeling a bit more kind of like, oh, not quite sure if I can make this. So, you know, was there any tweaks to your preparation going into that Supernatural show that you thought?
Not really. No,
sprinkle.
You know, the thing is, like, you would expect almost saying, yeah, I will come up with the strategy. Like I said, there was no time. I was just really barely, you know, like trying to sort of maintain and hold the condition. And no matter what, so, you know, it felt like no matter what I'm doing, it doesn't matter. It's just like I didn't respond as I knew from previous years, because I've never done it, that I would go from one show to another in, you know, like in 2 weeks, you know, before show, I mean, in between shows. So I didn't know what to expect. And then, yeah, I was definitely, you know, feeling it, that there was something that I didn't know from, you know, from before. So, you know, trying to prepare myself for that show was like almost impossible, because I tried to, you know, whatever I did was like, no, doesn't work. So for your question, I was happy that I was alive. So that was probably yes, that was it. But of course, I wouldn't go completely into something extreme. There was like like previous show, and I had like meal after the show, obviously, and then sort of back to it. But I didn't. I thought I cannot do anything. Like what do you do within 2 weeks or 3 weeks? There's really not much you can do other than trying to maintain the condition in the best possible, like a shape, or I don't know how to say it, but you know what I mean. So no time or space or anything to incorporate some prep or anything. It was seriously going back to back, and I was just hoping that on the day that it just somehow comes out. So that's it.
And talk to us about the result on the day. So obviously you went up into your class. There's quite a few of you, and you got the win, right?
Yeah. I was really happy. Yeah, there were some other guys in the category, but I'm not sure what happened that time because we were only 2 in the class at the end. So maybe it was still very difficult time. That winter, like the people were coming maybe from abroad. I'm not sure what happened there, but I was so happy that I was able to not only be on the stage, which was already my achievement. Until the end, I didn't know if I'm gonna make it. So even the day before, I was like thinking, wow, it's just like, am I really doing it? So I was really happy that I could sort of perform, do what I could at that time, and it was a win for me, and I'm so really happy for that, because that was probably, if I say, the most valuable one, because of what happened before, the leading up to it, and as I was just really dragging myself a little bit. I felt like that was the most deserved because of what happened, or the state I was in. So I must say that one was extremely valuable because of this. So yeah, it was
nice. And then obviously after you getting the win, you came back on for the overall, and you was battling it against a few.
I was very close to the overall. I don't know who that guy was, but.
Mate, all I just remember just seeing you in the lineup and thinking, oh mate, here we go again. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's always great, when you get to the overall, if you ever get to the overall, because then you get to battle against the best of each of those classes, right? And it really is a nice kind of end to wrap up the show, you know what I mean? And I think it's a nice fun time for all the athletes on the stage at the same time.
And I mean, like, especially when we were there, it's like it brings a lot of memories. It just gains so much character that we were on stage a couple of weeks ago, if I say, in the same position, and now like we are in backstage, and you were saying, I really had to go for it, and like all the prep. So I was that time I already knew, that's it, that's it, game over. This guy is serious, like I'm trying to just stand, but this guy is like in, but it's just all this, and like the other guys as well, we have like similar sort of like conversations. And then so it's just being on the stage. It's a really like something really special.
Yeah, definitely. I think if anything, that Supernatural show, had a really strong lineup of some of the best naturals that we have in the country, and that's what I liked about it. It was just like, okay, cool. Everyone that was there was of a high standard. It wasn't like you had mixed standard. It was of a high standard. So it was a battle across the board.
And considering that it was the very first one in UK, I think, like sometimes you wouldn't expect, because, first show, people are like hesitant, like, oh yeah. But I think that was really well represented. Like all the categories were really, like strong. So there was no like, oh yeah, that's just not happening. It was like, no, that was really across all the categories or the classes. It was phenomenal. So I cannot imagine what the second one will be.
I think this year is going to be. I've already started to see a lot of social media posts of some of the guys that are tagging in WNBF UK, and I'm like, damn, this one's going to be a spicy year. So we're going to see some crazy physiques come out of the woodworks. We're going to be like, man, where was you hiding? So looking forward to it. So tell me, when you're actually, you know, dieting and, you know, preparing for shows, what's the average time that you spend dieting or going into a show, prepping for a show?
Well, if I say, okay, so normally I don't follow, you know, like going completely off season and just gain, you know, unnecessary amount of weight. I always try to maintain it within, you know, I see where if I go a little, if I spill too much. But so, you know, considering that, I don't need that much time to, you know, like prep for the show. But I would say, yes, about 4 months before, I would start cleaning up without too much, you know, focusing on numbers. So that makes a huge step. If I clean up all the unnecessary shit, you know, that brings me to the next stage where I start to fine tune it a little bit and see, you know, what needs to be done. So if I have date, I would say, yeah, it sounds like, yeah, well, everybody's whatever. But I would say, yes, about those 3 months, I want to have a little bit extra time. If it goes well, yeah, you can, you know, I can, you know, loosen up a little bit. But it's about those 3 months that I need to be in control. So, you know, like I fine tune it more and more, you know, depending again how everything goes. So last year, again, it was a little bit different because the start was really slow or, you know, late. And there was no time to do like, oh, you do like off season and then prep. It was more like clean it up and, you know, do whatever you can do within what you have, the frame. And especially I'm talking natural. So, you know, there is no, you know, like dramatic changes. You like, even if I say off season, you know, like you gain, but it's not like you gain in a muscle size, like a clean muscle, you know, like inches and inches. It's like we're talking about fractions of, you know, that. So this was even more extreme when there was nothing like that. It was like, oh, let's go in, stop eating the cakes and the muffins for a month. There you go. And then just make it a little bit more specific. So yeah, it's about, I would say 3 months. And then, you know, like the last 2 months, I start to really like, you know, count, you know, I do count just to see really what's happening. And then, so, you know, nothing too crazy, you know, like I don't think I would be like losing my life over the prep. I try to incorporate it in my life, even though it is quite challenging because it changes quite a lot. You know, like normal life is just like not really happening, especially those 2-3 months ahead. So it's, you know, the mental state and then what I need to do to actually really control it as much as, so that's probably, you know, not for everyone, but so I would say 4 months beginning, be a little bit aware, and then 3 months start tightening it a little bit, and then whatever happens. But that's not the case for a lot of people. A lot of people would need, you know, completely different stuff. But for me, it's about that.
Well, you know, it sounds like, you know, even throughout your prep, your mindset is very strong because obviously you know what your timelines are when you stay focused. You know, are you that type of person that, okay, cool, I've got my dates locked in, I know what I need to do, it's all about executing, and then everything else around your private life, does that just kind of fall in alignment? How does it work for you? How do you stay headstrong in prep?
Yeah, but, you know, like that's the thing. The mindset is, you know, again, like I said before, I'm not like crazy enough to, you know, like be so consumed by that I have to win and I completely go, you know, like mental. But at the same time, if I say, okay, I want to compete, then, you know, I want to make the changes and make it somehow so I can get the best result, you know, within what I can do. Because if not, well, I don't have to do the competition then, you know, like if I want to do like, oh, I want to, you know, train and be lean for the beach. Well, you know, I don't have to go and into that and compete. So that's the thing. But if I say, okay, I want to be on stage, well, then that's the difference. So I need to make, you know, some choices. And it's like, well, it will cost something, you know, otherwise, well, if I say, I'm going to compete and then do, you know, everything and, you know, be all over the place. Well, then, you know, if I ended up third, fourth, and that would be in the background. Or, you know, like, well, I didn't do what I could do. So at least if I make it a little bit more specific for the competition, then I can say, hey, I ended up fifth, you know, and I did what I could for, you know, in this time and space reality. So yeah, so making it, I would have to commit to it the way that, you know, for the particular show, rather than you know, not having anything in my head. So
yeah. So, and what would you say was the hardest part of prep for you? Is there any hard parts that you're kind of like, man, when I get to this point during prep, I'm kind of like, ooh, I need an extra bit of a push to kind of get over that hurdle, or is everything kind of pretty much in control and focused and executed?
The hardest part is the beginning, not the beginning, maybe like a halfway, like a 3 to 2 months, when you are on the prep from the normal sort of lifestyle, or so you're in like 4 weeks in the dieting, and you're waiting for the momentum to show, and there's nothing happening. So it's like you're being consistent, but because you know, like now you're trying to build it up from within, you know, like, okay, the diet is in, but they're not dramatic changes. So it's more like a psychological thing, that all of a sudden you are like in, and you're like, yeah, that's something that I need to overcome, you know, like the routine, not only the gym, but mostly what happens outside of the gym. And then you spend a lot of effort at, especially the first period of, you know, like the first month, for example, but it doesn't show as much. It doesn't like, you know, it's not equivalent to that. So you do a lot of work for it. You do a lot of like you know, like getting onto the like a diet and stuff, but it doesn't correspond to what you see in the mirror. So I would say that that's the hardest, to sort of like go over that and keep the consistency, like the mental, you know, awareness of that. Yes, it is happening, but I just cannot see it yet. Because I know that eventually it will, and yes, of course, every time, you know, like if you're consistent enough, then of course it will happen. But that first month into the new routine, when lots of is happening, you know, in the like changing the lifestyle, but it's not happening in front of the mirror. That's probably the hardest one. Then after, you know, like it builds up, and then I lose the, okay, I'm doing it more naturally. You know, it's just like, it's happening, you know, like I prep the food, I measure the stuff, and it's like, it becomes much more, you know, like in general in the day. So it becomes easier. And then usually that time, it actually starts to show. So that, you know, like it comes together. And then that's a good motivation, because now, you know, it's paying off, you know, that you held the consistency for the past 4 or 5 weeks or whatever that is. And now you start to see the result. It's not the end result, but it motivates you. It's like, yes, you know, and now you're just like really driving it in. So the next, whatever, 5, 6 weeks or something is much more enjoyable, because, you know, like you see, yes, it is happening. It is happening. And I can push a little bit more. And it's just like,
I agree. Fall in love with the process, and the results will start to follow. It's as simple as that. I think, you know, when we're constantly trying to check in, you just got to give it time and just keep pushing, and then, you know, everything will start to show.
It's like the analogy, I know like lots of spiritual teachers say, but it's absolutely fantastic. At the beginning of the prep, it's the same like putting a seed into the ground. And then you need to nurture it. You need to take care of it. But it doesn't mean, if it's not coming out of the ground, that you go and dig it out, seeing if something's happening. It's the same thing, you know, like you leave it in the ground, trusting that if you nurture it, you know, enough, that you take care of it, it will eventually come out. And then, you know, whatever you want to, you know, harvest, that's gonna happen. But it's the same thing. You trust the process. You're starting to do this, and then you trust it. You don't go and dig it out and just like, oh, it's not happening, you know, like I quit, or, you know,
explains that. Yeah. No, 100%. And during obviously, you know, the preparation phases, you know, the importance of posing practice and stuff like that. And obviously, you know, for the time that you've been in the industry, obviously, you know the importance of posing. You know, how do you factor that into prep? Are you constantly, you know, doing it after every session? How are you factoring that in during your lead up to stage?
I would say I would start with the start of the prep. Let's say, you know, like those 4 months ahead. I would incorporate it without too much effort into the daily routine. So, you know, in the evening, for example, or, you know, like at the gym, but it's not something that I would do like religiously, you know, like, and maybe that, you know, that's a problem, because I could, and maybe I would, you know, feel so much better. But, you know, so the beginning is sort of like a slow, that I start like a little bit and do few, even if it's few seconds, and do few poses, you know, as we do. And then I continue until it is probably like 1 month, you know, like 4 weeks. And I really turn it on, that I would set up the time and I would just post every day. And I'm a little bit like an old fashioned person. I don't think I'm expressing myself in in a poses that are not compulsory. So I would probably go and then set my time and do every day and do quarter turns and compulsory poses. And then I add to it by doing it a little bit more often, or a little, you know, like extend the time a little bit. So if I do every day, and I do, you know, like compulsory poses, so I will always set, let's say, let's do quarter turns, and compulsory poses, and that will be that day. But, you know, in the next week, I will do 2 rounds. I would do 2 quarter turns and 2 compulsory poses, which is like, seriously, it becomes so demanding that, you know, I cannot imagine any cardio would be that demanding. If I do, you know, like, and we know that if I do 3 rounds of this, I'm literally like out. It's just so demanding. So I try to maintain it as much as I can on everyday basis. So I get used to, you know, like not only, you know, getting the poses right, but being, you know, like keeping the stamina, you know, like really holding, you know, all the way, because you never know, you are in a big class, then there are a lot of people, and you know, you have to be able to do, you know, many rounds basically. So you go, you know, and you can do quarter turns 4 or 5 times. You can do compulsory poses. And then, hey, and I'm saying, if you're not ready for it, and I know that I have limitations there, if I'm not ready for it, oh, that's a bad news. Because, you know, if they are really like a placing that is close, and you're coming to 3rd, 4th compulsory poses round, and you're not holding the you know, the poses, because the performance decreases, because you're not, you know, like trained enough to you know, withstand that, then that's a bad news, because you just becoming soft, and everything is like, you know, compromised by you not being able to, you know, perform. And that's a problem. So being prepared a little bit more than you expect is just, you know, you know, always a little bit better. So the last 2 weeks, I would just push it really, and I would go for 20 minutes, and I would just like seriously like go on and on and on and on, whatever it takes. And I'm like, you know, so exhausted that it's just, I cannot even express that. There's no, you know, like a comparison to anything really. So, but so that's only for the posing, for the quarter turns and compulsory poses. But then I try to, of course, include the free routine, the music. So at the beginning, again, you know, like maybe a few months before, I know what the music is. I let it run in my head without anything, and just like closing my eyes, trying to picture it, you know, like what's happening, what could be happening. And then whatever I come up with, I try to just, you know, practice that a little bit, until it comes really like, I don't have to think about it. It's just the music goes, and I go, and I don't have to think about it. Not saying that I would somehow be, you know, any excellent in this, because I know that I have lots of limitations, and I could learn a lot, you know, like from people who are really doing a really good posing. But you know, until now, I wasn't in the position that I was just like, yeah, I want to go in and just really nail the free routine, for example. Maybe I should. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you raise a good point. I think, you know, being on stage, it's all about that stamina because you just don't know how long you're going to be held on stage. And I think getting that, you know, that time to practice. Okay, cool. If you're doing quarter turns a few times, you know, just making sure that you are able to still represent your physique in the best light. And as you said, not get soft. Because yeah, if that stamina is not really there, then you're just going to be pretty much just kind of gassed out, right? So I think that's a good point to raise.
Yeah, and what I wanted to mention, you know, for people who don't know, who are, you know, maybe trying to, you know, compete for the first time, it's also a gigantic difference to practice the posing at home and on stage.
Yes.
So it is so much more different than you know, like if you don't know, it is difficult to replicate the environment because nobody, you know, like can tell you, like I can tell you, oh, you know, like the lights and the heat, for example, or, you know, like whatever the condition is that you do not have home, you can prepare for it a little bit, but the actual the space that you are in on the stage is just completely different. I would say this was my first the experience when I went on stage, and I wasn't prepared because I had no idea. It was first time on stage, and I was pretty confident, like posing, you know, and you. So this is what I want to say to, you know, people who are competing for the first time. Bear in mind that wherever you're posing always in the room that has four walls, usually, or gym, or, you know, and you're sort of almost protected by it. You have a mirror that is a couple of feet away, and you feel always the reference. You know where you are in space. So you have the walls, you have the mirror, and, you know, and that's sort of, and you get used to it, and you see yourself. It's like, oh yeah, okay. The stage is completely different.
Yes.
The lighting, because of the bright spotlights, you usually do not see in the space, or, you know, like you see the judges, but it's not like you would be looking for, you know, like any reference point. So basically what you're looking at is empty space. You have a competitor, but you're not really, you know, like the spatial awareness, and the back is gone. You do not have the wall here and the wall here, or known environment that you would take the reference of. So when you're on the stage, you are like in an empty space, and then all the other factors that, you know, like the stress level that you know, the adrenaline is coming in, the spotlights that, you know, like are really strong, which you cannot do at home. Obviously, no matter what you do, you cannot replicate that environment. So all this is just so dramatic that you almost feel like you don't know where you are. You feel like, oh, how you stand, what, you know, and that's it. That was my first, you know, like a experience from the stage. I thought I was just like, I didn't have the body anymore. I felt like I couldn't see in, you know, like in front of me, and I felt like I didn't have any control. I thought I was in the position, but I didn't know. I was just like unaware of where I am in the space. I was so consumed by the not being able to, you know, like get the common sort of you know, the environment, that I was lost in the space, and I lost the feeling of the body. So it was quarter turn, but I didn't know that I was on the side. I felt like I didn't feel like it. I just felt like I don't know where I am in the space. So then, of course, you pick it up, and then for the next time, you feel like, okay, yes, I know what I'm looking for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. People who are going to, you know, there will be the first timers, right? In so there will be a lot of people who are actually going to be the first time. So if they see it, you know, try to picture it. If you want to pose, try to do this. Try to go in the gym or at home. Try to put a blindfold on your head and try to walk in the room and try to pose. You know, record it or whatever. See what's happening and see how you feel. This is the feeling what you're gonna get on the stage, maybe for the first time. You know, so there you go.
Facial awareness, and I think you raised a valid point, mate. That, you know, as you go on stage, you can't see no one out there. You know what I mean? It does feel like you are in space. So I think you summed that up really nicely, Pav, and that's some great insight for those who are looking to compete, especially with our, you know, first time as a novice show coming up on the 17th of July. So that's great insight right there. So Pav, after the WNBF UK show, you know, you went straight into off season, I'm guessing, right?
Straight what?
You went straight into off season after the show.
After the show, no, I went to compete in yeah. I was going to the European one in Czech Republic.
Okay.
That was the last one. That was like the day after the WNBF.
Oh, wow.
So there was another one going.
Yeah. You got one more in the bag. Okay, say no more. So I'm guessing after you went over to Czech Republic and you done your show over there, you know, you kind of went straight into off season.
Well, yeah, I know where you're heading with this. Yes, I did, but I was so, you know, like after all this, because it was so unexpected, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to call it anything. I'm just going to go back to normal life, and that's what happened. It was just like not even, you know, and a lot of people, no, you need to, you know, this, yeah. Of course, you know, the protocol is there for like the off season. Yeah, I didn't do any of that. I was so close to fainting on the last show that I thought, you know what?
If it one more show in there, like I'm not surprised you was close to fainting.
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? Forget any protocols of season. I'm just going to go and just enjoy for a little while.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the plan, and it just like it kept going a little bit. Yeah, so you know, off season, no off season. Yeah, it just didn't happen. It didn't happen. Yeah. Just normal life resumed, and that was it. That was it.
Nice. So, what are your plans for 2022? You know, are you looking to compete this year? You know, what's on the cards for you?
Wow. That is the question. I
want to know where to avoid you. That's all I want to know. I want to know where he's going. I ain't going.
No. Okay, so this, I'm not going to answer like really directly because I have a lot going on at the moment, you know, like in different aspects of life.
Yeah.
But I have it in my, you know, like in the background, and I'm still sort of in the phase, currently I'm in the phase of sort of maintenance. I'm not, you know, I don't have anything specific in my head that I would be just going, you know, for. And I know, again, this is not ideal. This is for most people, this is the most important part of the season, you know, the winter up until, I don't know, whatever, March or something. Everything what happens. Like, okay, let's say a show is August, let's say hypothetical. Until March or maybe April, you have time to do whatever. Then after that, you cannot do anything. Even though, yes, a lot of things happening. But you know, from my perspective, whatever happens in this time until March, April, that's it. That's what you can work with, you know, for the rest of the season. If it's not there, you can just you shred it and but you know, this is the core. That's it. So saying that, I'm going to like go a little bit, you know, compromise that what I just said, saying that I'm not doing this. I'm not like in a serious, you know, prep or off-season prep.
Okay.
But I know that I'm maintaining sort of, you know, the potential to be able to turn it on. And I know that I would have to decide really soon, because the later I postpone it, of course, the harder it will be, not only, you know, physically, but also mentally, that I would be thinking, you know, I should have started, of course. And it's like, so all that is in the mix. But at the moment, nothing is, I didn't decide to do anything, you know, like specific, but you have it, you know, like it's there. It's just, you know, like, hey, this is it. This is the.
I know exactly what you're saying there, Pav. Definitely. And is there any plans to try and get your WNBF Pro card? Now that's the big one.
Yeah, definitely. That would be my first. I mean, that would be my next, like a goal to go and try to. But you know, again, saying that, people think, oh, what? A joke, you're not even like off-season preparing and you're like aiming for a pro card. What you know, this is not very professional. It's like, I know, you know, I'm a joke, whatever. But if that happens, I would probably, that would be my sort of in my head, that would be my goal to, you know, get to the pro card level and just like say, yeah, I've done it. Yeah. So it is really tempting. And yeah, I would say I'm not afraid of the idea. I'm not afraid of the thought of, you know, like going the direction. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, just to let you know, there is an opportunity back at the Supernatural show that we're going to have on the 9th of October this year. So, I mean, if you want it, Pav, it's there.
It's there. It's waiting.
Just letting you know.
There are a lot of hungry people. It's good. It's very good. Yes, please.
Definitely. Well, Pav, it's been a pleasure having you on today's show, man. I'm telling you, literally great insight from someone of a very experienced background. And, you know, I'm sure there's lots of takeaways from those that are looking to compete for the first time, and those that are, you know, conditioned to competing and they're used to it. You know, there's some good takeaways that you provided today with your insights. So thank you, my brother. It's been a blessing. I just want to say a massive shout out to our sponsors, CNP Nutrition. Big respect to those guys for continuously supporting the WNBF UK. And just remember, guys, we got the first timers and the novice show on the 17th of July this year. And then we got the big Supernaturals Open Championship on the 9th of October. So plenty of opportunities to get in there. What's that one there, buddy? Oh, okay. Bit of product placement, CNP Nutrition, the loaded EAAs. Guys, I can't...
Come on.
Love it. So guys, until next time, we'll see you soon.
All right, see you guys.
Check out CNP, our sponsors, and sign up for our events at www.wnbfuk.com.